Maya Ellis thought she'd found her fairy tale when the helicopter landed and revealed her date's hidden wealth, but what she discovered next would shatter everything she believed about love, trust, and the man she was falling for. In the glittering towers of Seattle, where billion-dollar families play games with ordinary hearts, one woman's quest for simple love becomes a dangerous battle between two men who both claim to protect her. When her controlling ex-boyfriend resurfaces with explosive evidence that her new lover has been lying about everything, including the building where she works, Maya must choose between the safety of familiar manipulation and the terrifying risk of trusting again. But some secrets run deeper than money, and some betrayals cut closer to the heart than she ever imagined. As the truth begins to unravel, Maya will learn that in the world of Seattle's elite, even love can be a weapon, and sometimes the person trying to save you is the one you should fear the most. The helicopter was just the beginning, but how this love story ends will depend on one woman's courage to see through the lies that surround her. If you're watching this story unfold, hit subscribe and tell me what city you're from, because love and betrayal look different everywhere. But the choice between fear and trust is universal. Maya Ellis smoothed her hands over her navy dress one more time and checked her phone. 6:30 on the dot. The rooftop restaurant buzzed with early evening energy, Seattle's skyline painting the backdrop in soft gold and purple. She'd arrived first, always did, on blind dates. It gave her a chance to settle in, find the best spot, and text Tasha that she'd made it safely. At Skyline Terrace, good table by the rail, we'll check in after. Tasha's response came back immediately. Get it, girl, but remember what we said about keeping your guard up. Maya smiled and slipped her phone into her purse. Tasha meant well, but sometimes her best friend worried too much. This was just dinner with a guy her colleague had set her up with. Luke something. A pilot, she'd been told. Nice enough to warrant a phone conversation that had lasted 2 hours last week. The elevator dinged behind her, and Maya turned to see a tall man in jeans and a navy windbreaker step onto the terrace. He had sandy brown hair that looked like he'd run his fingers through it, and kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when he spotted her and smiled. Maya? His voice was warm, a little nervous. That's me. She stood, extending her hand. His handshake was firm but gentle. Luke? Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. Traffic on the bridge was brutal. He gestured toward the empty chair across from her. This is a great spot. Maya settled back into her seat as he joined her. The waiter appeared almost immediately, and they ordered drinks, a glass of wine for her, beer for him. Luke folded his hands on the table and looked out at Elliott Bay, where ferries moved like slow, white birds across the darkening water. So, Maya said, Janet tells me you're a pilot. Luke nodded. Commercial helicopters, mostly. Tours, some cargo work, occasional emergency runs. He paused. What about you? Janet mentioned something about healthcare. I'm a massage therapist. I work at a hospice clinic downtown. Maya watched his expression carefully. Some people got uncomfortable when she mentioned her job. But Luke's face remained open, interested. That must be really meaningful work, he said. And hard sometimes. It is both of those things. Maya felt some of the tension in her shoulders ease. But I love it. There's something special about being able to bring comfort when people need it most. Their drinks arrived, and the conversation flowed easier than Maya had expected. Luke asked thoughtful questions about her work, and she found herself sharing stories she usually kept to herself. He told her about flying over the mountains at sunrise, about the moment when you lift off and the world spreads out below you like a map. I grew up in the city, Luke said, but there's something about being up there that makes everything feel possible. Like all the stuff that seems so important down here, traffic jams, deadlines, whatever just shrinks down to its real size. Maya smiled. That sounds peaceful. It really is. Luke took a sip of his beer. What about you? What makes you feel that way? The question caught her off guard. Most first dates stuck to safer topics, jobs, hobbies, funny stories. Well, she said slowly, sometimes after a really hard day at the clinic, I'll go sit by the water. Just watch the ferries and the birds. It reminds me that life keeps moving, you know, that there's always more to the story. Luke nodded, like he understood exactly what she meant. Their appetizers came, and they shared stories about growing up in Seattle, favorite neighborhoods, places they wanted to travel. Luke was easy to talk to, the kind of person who listened with his whole attention. Maya found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't on a date in months. Then Luke's phone buzzed against the table. He glanced at it and his expression shifted, brow creasing with concern. "Everything okay?" Maya asked. Luke looked up, conflict clear in his eyes. "I'm sorry. It's my sister. He glanced at the phone again. "She's stuck somewhere and needs a ride. Family emergency kind of thing." Maya felt her heart sink a little. This was usually where the date ended, where the guy made his excuses and disappeared into the night. But Luke was looking at her like he was trying to solve a puzzle. "The thing is," he said slowly, "I might be able to help her faster than calling an Uber or waiting for someone else to drive out there." "What do you mean?" Luke shifted in his seat, suddenly looking younger. "I didn't mention this before because, honestly, it sounds kind of show-offy on a first date, but I have my own license to fly, and there's a municipal helipad about 2 blocks from here." Maya blinked. "You have your own helicopter?" "Well, access to one. It's complicated." Luke rubbed the back of his neck. "Look, I know how this sounds. Rich guy with toys, probably trying to impress you. But Erin, my sister, she's at some field about 20 minutes out by car, and the road's washed out from the rain we had yesterday. She's fine, but she's stuck, and she worries about things. The wind picked up around them, carrying the scent of salt and something else, something mechanical. In the distance, Maya could hear the distinctive sound of rotor blades cutting through air. Luke glanced toward the bay, then back at her. "I was hoping we could finish dinner first, but if that sound is what I think it is." He paused, looking genuinely torn. "Would it be completely crazy if I asked you to walk down with me? Just so I can see her off safely?" Maya studied his face. There was no arrogance there, no sense that he was trying to impress her with talk of helicopters. He just looked like a man worried about his sister. "That might be for me," he said quietly, nodding toward the sound of approaching rotors. The elevator ride down to street level was quiet except for the growing thrum of helicopter blades. Maya's mind raced, trying to process what was happening. A helicopter. On a first date. This was definitely not in any of the dating advice books Tasha had made her read, but as they stepped out onto the sidewalk and she saw Luke's profile in the streetlights, she realized something. He looked nervous, not excited or proud or like he was putting on a show, just nervous, like any person who'd had their quiet evening suddenly turned upside down by family drama. The municipal helipad sat across the street, flood-lit and official-looking. A sleek helicopter sat on the landing pad, rotors spinning slowly. A second man in a pilot's uniform stood beside it, checking something on a clipboard. "That's definitely mine," Luke said. He looked at Maya with something like apology in his eyes. "I'm really sorry about this. This was not how I imagined tonight going." Maya surprised herself by laughing. "You know what? I've had dates that ended a lot worse than this." Luke's face brightened. "Really? Really? But I have one request. Anything. Can I come with you?" Luke stopped walking. "What? To get your sister? You said it was a short hop, right? And a clear night?" Maya looked up at the sky, which was indeed crisp and star-filled. "I've never been in a helicopter before. And honestly, if this is some elaborate scheme to impress me, I want to see how far you're willing to take it." Luke stared at her for a long moment. Then he broke into the first real grin she'd seen all evening. "Are you serious? Dead serious? But I'm texting my best friend our location first. Standard safety protocol. Smart woman." Luke was still grinning as they crossed the street toward the helipad. Maya pulled out her phone and sent a quick message to Tasha. "Change of plans. Going up in a helicopter? Yes, really. We'll call you in an hour. If you don't hear from me, check the news." Tasha's response was immediate. "Excuse me, what?" But Maya was already tucking her phone away and following Luke toward the aircraft. The pilot, an older man with graying hair, nodded to Luke. "Evening, sir. Ready for pickup?" "Thanks, Carl. And we'll have a passenger tonight." Luke gestured to Maya. "Maya, this is Carl." "Carl." "Maya." Carl tipped his cap. "Ma'am, first time flying?" "First time in a helicopter," Maya said. "You'll love it. Beautiful night for it, too." Carl handed her a headset. "Just pop this on once we're inside, and you'll be able to hear everything." Luke opened the door for her and helped her up into the cabin. The interior was smaller than she'd expected, but comfortable, with large windows that would give her a perfect view once they were airborne. Luke settled in beside her and handed her a seatbelt. "You sure about this?" he asked, as Carl climbed into the pilot's seat. Maya looked out the window at Seattle, spread around them, the lights beginning to twinkle on in apartment windows, the last traces of sunset painting the sky soft pink. In a few minutes, she'd be seeing all of this from above, flying through the night sky with a man she'd met 2 hours ago. 6 months ago, after everything with Jordan, she'd sworn off taking risks on men. No more chances, no more believing in gestures or promises. Just safe, predictable dates with safe, predictable guys. But something about Luke felt different. Maybe it was the way he'd looked genuinely sorry about cutting dinner short. Maybe it was how he'd asked if she wanted to come along instead of just assuming she'd wait around. Or maybe it was simply that he seemed as surprised by this turn of events as she was. "I'm sure," she said, slipping the headset over her ears. Carl's voice crackled through the speakers. "All set back there? Ready when you are," Luke replied. The rotors spun faster, and Maya felt the helicopter lift gently off the ground. Her stomach did a small flip as they rose above the buildings, but it was excitement, not fear. The city spread out below them like a circuit board, all glowing lines and scattered light. "Oh my God," she breathed into her headset microphone. Luke's chuckle came through her earphones. "Pretty amazing, isn't it?" It was more than amazing. It was like seeing the world remade, familiar places transformed by height and perspective. The Space Needle looked like a toy from up here. Elliott Bay stretched out vast and dark, dotted with ferry lights and the distant glow of other islands. "There," Luke said, pointing ahead. "That's where we're going." Maya followed his gaze to a small lit area in what looked like wilderness, a grassy field, with a single figure waving beside a ranger's truck. The flight took 15 minutes, and Maya spent every second pressed to the window, watching. Forests and water and distant mountains flow beneath them. When Carl set the helicopter down in the field with barely a bump, Maya was almost disappointed it was over. The figure by the truck turned out to be a young woman with Luke's eyes and worried expression. She hurried toward the helicopter as the rotors wound down, and Luke hopped out to meet her. "Erin, you okay?" "I'm fine, just stuck." The road washed out about a mile back, and I didn't want to try to hike it in the dark. Erin glanced at Maya as she climbed down from the cabin. "Sorry, I didn't know you were bringing someone." "Erin, this is Maya." "Maya, my sister Erin." Maya smiled. "Nice to meet you." "You too." Erin looked between them. "I'm really sorry about interrupting your date." "Don't worry about it," Maya said. "This is definitely the most interesting first date I've ever been on." Erin grinned. "First helicopter ride?" "First everything, pretty much." As they helped Erin gather her things and climb into the helicopter, she chatted nervously about her day, a work conference that had run late, the detour that had led her to the washed-out road, how she'd called Luke because he was the only person she could think of who could actually get to her. "The trust handles most of our properties out here," Erin said as they lifted off again. "But sometimes you need actual human help, you know?" Maya nodded, only half listening. She was too busy watching Seattle grow larger as they approached, the lights spreading out like spilled jewels. But something about Erin's words nagged at her, and she found herself thinking about the monthly statement that had come in the mail last week. Her clinic's lease payment, made out to... Maya's stomach dropped as she remembered the name on the check. Harrington Holdings. She glanced at Luke, who was pointing out landmarks to Erin, and quietly pulled out her phone. Sure enough, there it was in her banking app, the monthly payment to Harrington Holdings for her clinic space. Maya stared at the screen, her mind spinning. Harrington. Luke's last name was Harrington, and his family had a trust that managed properties, which meant Luke's family owned her building. The building where she worked every day, where she'd built her practice, where her livelihood depended on maintaining a good relationship with her landlord. Maya closed her phone and looked out the window, but the sparkling lights of the city suddenly felt very far away. They landed back at the municipal helipad with the same gentle bump as before. Carl helped them all down, and Erin gave Luke a quick hug. "Thanks for the rescue." Again. She turned to Maya. "Really nice to meet you. Sorry for crashing your date." "No problem at all," Maya managed. Erin climbed into a waiting Uber, and Carl began his post-flight check of the helicopter. Luke and Maya found themselves standing alone on the sidewalk, the evening suddenly quiet after the rush of rotors and flight. "So," Luke said, "that was." "Can I ask you something?" Maya interrupted. "Of course." Maya took a breath. "Harrington Holdings, that's your family?" Luke's expression shifted, becoming more guarded. "Yes, they own the building where my clinic is located." Luke was quiet for a long moment. "Yes," he said finally. "They do." Maya nodded slowly. "Were you planning to tell me that?" Luke ran a hand through his hair. "Honestly, I was hoping it wouldn't come up. Not because I was trying to hide anything, but because I wanted you to get to know me first. Just me. And what exactly is just you?" Luke looked down at his hands. "I'm a pilot. I love flying. I live in a one-bedroom apartment in Fremont that I pay for myself. I get my coffee from the same place every morning and tip the barista too much because she always remembers how I like it." He looked up at Maya. "I don't run the family business. I don't make decisions about leases or properties or any of that. I just fly helicopters and try to help my sister when she gets stuck places." Maya studied his face. He looked sincere, but then again, Jordan had looked sincere too when he'd promised he wasn't trying to control her life. "Maya," Luke said quietly, "I know how this looks. Rich guy, owns your building, takes you on a helicopter ride on the first date. It looks like I'm trying to impress you, or worse, like I'm trying to have some kind of influence over you. Are you?" "No." The word came out firm and immediate. "I don't want any influence over your life. I don't want to be involved in business decisions that affect you. If you want me to formally recuse myself from anything related to your building, I'll do that tomorrow." Maya felt some of the tension in her chest ease slightly. "You'd do that?" "Maya, I wanted a normal date with a woman I thought I might like spending time with. I still want that, if you'll let me." The sound of rotors was fading now, replaced by the ordinary noise of city traffic and distant music from restaurants. Maya looked at Luke standing in the glow of the street lamp, hands shoved in his pockets, waiting for her answer. "I need to think," she said finally. Luke nodded. "I understand. I had a good time tonight. The helicopter thing was amazing, but I need to process all of this." "Of course." Luke pulled out his phone. "Can I call you a ride home? I can take the bus." "Maya, please, let me at least do that." She considered arguing, then decided it wasn't worth the fight. "Okay." As they waited for the Uber, Luke said quietly, "I know you don't have any reason to trust me yet, but I meant what I said about the recusal thing. I'll take care of it tomorrow." Maya nodded but didn't answer. A few minutes later, she was in the back of a car watching Luke's figure disappear as they drove away, her mind still spinning with helicopters and family trusts and the memory of Jordan's voice saying, "I'm just trying to help you make better decisions." 40 minutes later, Maya sat in her kitchen with Tasha, both of them clutching mugs of tea like lifelines. "So let me get this straight," Tasha said. "Not only did this guy have access to a helicopter on your first date, but his family also happens to own your building. That's about the size of it. And you got in the helicopter anyway." "I got in the helicopter anyway." Tasha shook her head. "Girl, you are either crazy or brave. I can't decide which. Maybe both." Maya stared into her tea. "Tasha, what if I'm making the same mistake again?" "With Jordan?" Tasha's voice sharpened. "Maya, that was completely different." "Was it?" "Rich guy, has power over aspects of my life, seems really nice at first." "Stop." Tasha set down her mug and looked directly at Maya. "Jordan spent 6 months slowly taking control of every part of your life. He started with suggestions about your schedule and ended up trying to manage your money and your friendships. This guy, what did you say his name was?" "Luke." "This Luke guy took you on a rescue mission for his sister and offered to recuse himself from business decisions about your building. Those are not the same thing," Maya wanted to argue, but she couldn't deny that Tasha had a point. Jordan had never offered to step back from anything. If anything, he'd always found ways to insert himself deeper into her life. "So what do you think?" Maya asked. "I think," Tasha said carefully, "that you should judge him by how he treats you, not by his family's bank account. Did he make you feel safe tonight?" Maya thought about it. Even when she'd been nervous about the helicopter ride, even when she'd learned about the building ownership, Luke had never pushed her. He'd asked permission offered alternatives, accepted her need to think. "Yeah," she said. "He did. Then maybe give him a chance to prove he's different." Maya's phone buzzed against the table. A text from Luke. Recusal paperwork in motion. "No rush, sleep well." Maya showed the text to Tasha, who raised her eyebrows. "Well, that was fast." "Yeah." Maya tucked her phone away. It was. The next morning, Maya woke to sunlight streaming through her bedroom windows and the memory of flying over the city lights. For a few seconds, she almost thought she'd dreamed the whole thing. Then her phone buzzed with a notification, and reality came rushing back. The notification was from Seattle Neighborhood Blog, a local website that covered everything from restaurant openings to street festivals to gossip about notable residents. Maya rarely read it, but she'd signed up for notifications months ago when they'd done a helpful series about small business resources. This notification made her blood run cold. The headline read, "Helipad Romeo and his mystery date." With shaking fingers, Maya opened the article. There, in full color, was a photo of her standing at the rail of the restaurant terrace, wineglass in hand, looking out over the bay. The photo was clearly taken from another building, probably with a telephoto lens. The article was short but detailed. Last night, local helicopter pilot Luke Harrington was spotted treating a lucky lady to dinner and an aerial tour of the city. The mystery woman, seen here enjoying the view from Skyline Terrace, joined Harrington for what appeared to be a rescue mission to collect a stranded family member. While the identity of Harrington's date remains unknown, witnesses report that she seemed right at home in the aircraft. Given the Harrington family's well-documented wealth and property holdings throughout the Seattle area, we can only imagine what other surprises this romance might hold. The comments section was already filling up with speculation. Someone had recognized the restaurant. Another commenter wondered if Maya was another gold digger. A third suggested that Luke was finally settling down. Maya felt sick. She set the phone face down on her nightstand and pulled a pillow over her head, but she could still hear it buzzing with more notifications. After 10 minutes of trying to pretend this wasn't happening, Maya forced herself to get up and face the day. She had patients to see, people depending on her. She couldn't hide in bed because some blogger had decided her private life was public entertainment. But as she got ready for work, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that the simple, normal connection she'd felt with Luke the night before had just become very complicated. The afternoon brought another test she hadn't expected. Luke had texted asking if she'd meet him and his mother for coffee, nothing formal, just a quick introduction, since he believed in being transparent about the people in his life. Maya had agreed, partly because she respected the honesty and partly because she wanted to see what kind of woman had raised Luke. Vivian Harrington turned out to be a petite woman in her 50s, with silver hair and sharp eyes. She wore a simple navy blazer and pearl earrings, and her handshake was firm without being aggressive. "Maya," she said with a polite smile, "how lovely to meet you." They settled into a quiet corner of a cafe in Pike Place Market, the kind of place that served artisanal coffee and overpriced pastries. Maya ordered a simple latte. Vivian chose Earl Grey tea. "So, Maya," Vivian said once they'd been served, "what do you do for work?" "I'm a massage therapist," Maya replied. "I work at a hospice clinic downtown." Vivian's eyebrows lifted slightly. "How? Noble. That must be quite demanding work." There was something in her tone, not dismissive exactly, but not entirely warm either. Maya couldn't tell if Vivian was being polite or if there was judgment hiding under the careful words. "It is demanding," Maya agreed, "but it's also really rewarding. There's something special about being able to bring comfort to people during difficult times." "I'm sure there is." Vivian stirred her tea with a small silver spoon. "And you've lived in Seattle long?" "My whole life. Born and raised in Capitol Hill." "How nice. A local girl." Again, that careful tone that could mean anything. Luke jumped in with questions about Maya's neighborhood, and the conversation shifted to safer ground favorite restaurants, changes in the city over the years, the challenges of parking downtown. Vivian participated but didn't warm up, and Maya found herself working harder than she should have to keep the conversation flowing. As they prepared to leave, Vivian touched Luke's arm. "Walk me to my car," she asked. Maya stood to gather her purse, and Vivian's voice carried just far enough for her to hear. "Some people see dollar signs, sweetheart." Maya's face burned. She pretended not to have heard, but Luke's expression told her he'd caught every word. He looked mortified. Outside the cafe, the late afternoon air felt cold against Maya's flushed cheeks. "Maya," Luke said immediately, "I'm sorry. That was completely out of line. It's fine. No, it's not fine." Luke stopped walking and turned to face her. "My mother doesn't know you. She had no right to make assumptions." Maya appreciated that he wasn't making excuses for Vivian, but the damage was done. She could feel the careful walls she'd started to lower going back up, brick by brick. "Luke, can I ask you something?" "Anything. The building recusal thing. You said you'd take care of it. What does that actually look like?" Luke pulled out his phone and showed her an email thread. "I sent this to our property manager this morning. I formally requested that I be recused from any decisions regarding your building and that they note our relationship in their files. If there are ever any issues with your lease, someone else will handle them." Maya read the email. It was brief but clear, and Luke had copied someone who appeared to be the head of the property management company. "This is real?" she asked. "It's real. I meant what I said, Maya. I don't want any power over your life or your livelihood." Maya handed the phone back. She could feel some of the tension in her shoulders easing, but Vivian's words still echoed in her ears. "Thank you," she said. "That means a lot. Your feelings about all this, they matter to me. And if you need time to process everything, I understand." Maya looked at Luke standing in the afternoon sunlight, hands shoved in his jacket pockets, waiting for her to decide if he was worth the risk. The doubt was still there, the whisper of Jordan's voice reminding her how these things started. But there was something else too, the memory of Luke asking permission before including her in his family emergency, the speed with which he'd handled the building situation, the genuine regret in his eyes when his mother had overstepped. "Then I'll give your feelings time," he said quietly when she didn't immediately respond. As Maya rode the bus home, she thought about trust and time and the difference between a man who tried to control and a man who stepped back when asked. Maybe Tasha was right. Maybe the only way to know for sure was to judge Luke by his actions, not his bank account. Her phone buzzed, with another text from Luke. "Dinner tonight, ground rules talk?" Maya stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "Yes, but somewhere quiet, where we can actually hear each other." "No, just the place," came his reply. Maya tucked her phone away and watched Seattle roll past her window, trying to decide if she was being smart or setting herself up for another heartbreak. Either way, she was going to find out. The diner Luke chose was the kind of place that served coffee in heavy white mugs and kept the pie case right by the front door. Maya slid into a corner booth, appreciating how the high backs gave them privacy from the handful of other customers scattered throughout the restaurant. Luke arrived a few minutes after her, hair slightly damp from the light rain that had started falling. He hung his jacket on the back of his chair and sat down across from her. "Thank you for agreeing to this," he said. Maya nodded. "We need to talk." The waitress appeared with coffee and menus, giving them a moment to settle in. Maya wrapped her hands around her mug, using the warmth to steady herself. "Okay," she said. "Ground rules." Luke leaned forward slightly. "I'm listening." Maya had spent the afternoon thinking about this conversation, making mental lists of everything that needed to be said. First pace. I don't move fast. I don't rush into things. If you're looking for someone who's going to be swept off her feet by helicopter rides and family money, that's not me. "Good," Luke said, "because that's not what I'm looking for either. Second, no financial entanglement. You don't pay for my things, you don't give me gifts that cost more than $20, and you definitely don't try to solve my problems with money. Understood? Third, I want to meet your people, but on normal terms. No more surprise coffee dates with your mother. And I want you to meet Tasha properly, not just in passing." Luke smiled at that. "I'd like that. And fourth," Maya paused, trying to find the right words, "I need to know that if this doesn't work out, it doesn't affect my lease or my job or anything else in my life. The building thing needs to stay separate, no matter what happens between us. Maya, I already told you. I know what you told me. But I need to hear you say it again, here, when we both know what we're agreeing to." Luke met her eyes directly. "If things don't work out between us, which I hope they don't, but if they do, it will have zero impact on your professional life." The property management company has already been notified of our relationship, and I've recused myself from anything involving your building. That doesn't change regardless of what happens with us personally. Maya felt something tight in her chest begin to loosen. Okay. Anything else? That's it for now. What about you? Any ground rules from your side? Luke thought for a moment. Just honesty. If something bothers you, if you need space, if I do something that reminds you of past experiences, I want you to tell me. Don't just disappear. The reference to Jordan was subtle but clear. Maya appreciated that Luke didn't make her spell out her history. I can do that, she said. The waitress returned, and they ordered dinner, nothing fancy, just burgers and fries like any normal couple on any normal date. When the check came, Luke gestured for separate bills without Maya having to ask. As they waited for their rides outside the diner, Luke said, "So what now? Now we see if this can work on normal terms. And what do normal terms look like to you?" Maya thought about it. Dinner dates that don't involve aircraft. Meeting each other's friends, regular phone calls, movies on weeknights. She paused. Maybe a weekend trip somewhere, but on a ferry, not in anything that flies. Luke laughed. I think I can manage that. 2 days later, Luke texted her with a proposal. Weather looks perfect this weekend. Want to take the ferry out to one of the islands? Just us, no helicopters, no family business, no entourage. Promise. Maya showed the text to Tasha over lunch at their usual sandwich place. Sounds nice, Tasha said. What's the catch? No catch, just a weekend away. With a guy you've known for a week. Maya set down her sandwich. Tasha, are you trying to talk me out of this? No, I'm just being careful. For both of us. Tasha's expression softened. You know I want you to be happy. But after Jordan, I spent 6 months not trusting anyone. Maybe it's time to try trusting someone again. Tasha studied her friend's face. You really like him, don't you? I think I do. Maya searched for the right words. He's steady. He listens. When I say I need something, he doesn't argue or try to convince me I'm wrong. Those are good qualities in a man. They are. And Tasha, I want to do this. I want to see what happens when I stop being afraid. That afternoon, Maya texted Luke back. Ferry sounds perfect. But I'm bringing my own bag, paying for my own ticket, and if you try to book us some fancy resort, I'm turning around and coming home. His response made her smile. Already booked us rooms at the Pine Lodge. It's about as far from fancy as you can get. Hope you like board games and a wood stove that may or may not work properly. The ferry ride to the San Juan Islands took 2 hours, and Maya spent most of it standing at the rail with Luke, watching the water change from the muddy green of Puget Sound to the deeper blue of open water. The afternoon was clear and cold, and Luke had brought coffee from a thermos he'd packed in his backpack. Tell me about this place we're going, Maya said. It's been in the family forever, Luke said. My grandfather bought it back in the 50s, I think, but it's not impressive. It's just this old lodge with squeaky floors and a kitchen that only works half the time. Sounds perfect. Luke glanced at her. Really? Really? I'm not interested in being impressed, remember? The Pine Lodge turned out to be exactly what Luke had described, a low building with cedar siding and a green metal roof set back from a rocky beach. The interior had that particular smell of old wood and lake water that spoke of decades of family vacations. The furniture was mismatched but comfortable, and someone had left a jigsaw puzzle half-finished on the dining room table. Erin was here last weekend, Luke explained, following Maya's gaze to the puzzle. She stress-solves puzzles when work gets overwhelming. Maya smiled. I like her. She likes you too. She told me you have good energy, whatever that means. They spent the evening like any normal couple on a normal vacation, lighting the wood stove after Luke spent 20 minutes remembering how the damper worked, making grilled cheese sandwiches when they discovered the stove's front burner was broken, playing Scrabble at the kitchen table while rain drummed on the roof. So tell me about your family, Luke said as Maya added up her score. Not much to tell. My parents live in Portland now. My dad's retired from the post office, and my mom teaches 3rd grade. I have a brother in California. He's a software engineer. Maya drew new letter tiles from the bag. Very normal, very boring. Sounds nice. It is nice. What about yours? Besides Erin and your mother, I mean. Luke was quiet for a moment, arranging his letters on the tile rack. My dad died when I was in college. Heart attack completely sudden. Everything changed after that. I'm sorry. Thanks. It's been 10 years now, but sometimes it still feels recent. Luke placed a word on the board, flight, and Maya calculated his points. That's when I started flying, actually. After he died, I needed something that was just mine, you know? Something that had nothing to do with family expectations or business obligations. Maya understood. After Jordan, she'd thrown herself into her work at the hospice for similar reasons, needing something that belonged completely to her. Is that why you don't work for the family business? Partly. But mostly it's because I'm not built for it. Erin's the one with the head for management and investments. I just like being in the air. They played 3 games, and Luke won 2 of them, though Maya suspected he let her win the 3rd. By the time they called it a night, the rain had stopped, and stars were visible through the kitchen windows. Thank you for today, Maya said, as they turned off the lights downstairs. Thank you for saying yes. Maya's room was small and simple, with a view of the water and a quilt that looked like it had been made by someone's grandmother. She fell asleep listening to waves against the rocks and woke up to sunshine streaming through white curtains. Downstairs, Luke was already up, standing in the kitchen with a cup of coffee and a slightly frustrated expression. Please tell me you know how to make pancakes without a working front burner, he said. Maya laughed. I think I can figure something out. They spent the morning solving Erin's puzzle, a landscape of mountains and wildflowers that required careful attention to tiny details. Luke was good at finding edge pieces. Maya had an eye for color patterns. They worked together easily, conversation flowing between comfortable silences. Can I ask you something? Luke said as they sorted through pieces looking for purple flowers. Sure. What was he like? Your ex, I mean. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I keep feeling like I'm stepping on landmines without knowing where they are. Maya set down the puzzle piece she'd been holding. It was a fair question, and Luke had been patient with her careful boundaries. Jordan, she said slowly. He was charming, smart, successful. He made me feel like I was special, like he saw something in me that other people missed. Luke waited, not pushing, but gradually he started having opinions about my life. Suggestions about how I could be better, happier, more successful. He wanted to help me invest my money, thought I should move to a nicer neighborhood, had ideas about how I should run my practice. Maya picked up another puzzle piece, turning it over in her fingers. It all sounded reasonable when he said it. He made it seem like he just wanted what was best for me. But it wasn't, Luke said quietly. No, it was about control. By the end, I felt like I couldn't make any decision without checking with him first. And when I finally tried to pull back, he made it clear how much of my life he'd managed to insert himself into. Luke nodded. That's why the building thing scared you. That's why the building thing scared me, Maya confirmed. I can't go through that again, Luke. I won't. You won't have to, Luke said. I promise. Maya believed him. More than that, she was starting to trust him. It was a strange feeling after months of being careful, but Luke had earned it through consistent actions rather than grand gestures. Your turn, she said. Tell me about your worst relationship. Luke grimaced. Her name was Rebecca. We dated for 2 years, and I thought we were serious. Turned out she was more serious about the family money than about me. How did you find out? I overheard her on the phone with her sister, talking about wedding venues and how much she thought my mother would be willing to spend. Luke found the piece they'd been looking for and clicked it into place. When I confronted her about it, she didn't even deny it. Just said she thought I understood what kind of relationship we were in. That's awful. Yeah. It taught me to be more careful about who I let into my life, and why I wanted tonight to be normal, just dinner and conversation, and getting to know each other. Maya looked at Luke sitting across from her in the morning sunlight, sleeves pushed up and hair sticking up slightly from sleep, and realized something had shifted. The careful distance she'd been maintaining was gone, replaced by something warmer and more hopeful. Luke? Yeah? I'm glad I said yes to this weekend, he smiled. Me too. That afternoon, they walked along the rocky beach, collecting smooth stones and talking about everything and nothing. Luke told her about learning to fly, about the first time he'd taken the helicopter up solo and the moment he'd realized he was exactly where he belonged. Maya shared stories from the hospice about patients who had taught her about living fully and families who had shown her what love actually looked like. "Do you ever think about having kids?" Luke asked as they sat on a piece of driftwood, watching ferries move across the distant water. "Someday, with the right person." Maya glanced at him. "You?" "Definitely. I want what my parents had before my dad died. That kind of partnership where you're both just solid together, you know?" Maya knew. She'd seen it in some of the families at the hospice couples who could communicate with a look, who faced the hardest moments together without losing each other. "What would that look like to you?" she asked. Luke was quiet for a moment, skipping a stone across the calm water. Sunday mornings with coffee and the newspaper, someone to call when something good happens at work, arguing about what to watch on Netflix and letting her win most of the time. Maya smiled. "That sounds nice. What about you?" "Someone who sees me clearly and likes what he sees. Someone who makes me laugh and doesn't try to fix me when I'm sad. Someone who—" she paused, searching for the words. "Someone who makes ordinary life feel like enough." Luke looked at her seriously. "Ordinary life is underrated." "I think so too." As the sun started to set, they made their way back to the lodge. Luke built a fire in the stone fireplace while Maya heated up leftover soup from lunch. They sat on the old couch with bowls in their laps, watching flames dance behind the screen. "Maya," Luke said quietly, "would it be okay if I kissed you?" Maya set down her empty bowl and turned to face him. Luke was looking at her with that same careful attention he'd shown all weekend, waiting for her answer without assuming anything. "I think that would be okay," she said. The kiss was gentle and unhurried, the kind of first kiss that felt like a question being answered. When they broke apart, Maya felt something settle into place, like a piece of herself she hadn't realized was missing. "So," Luke said, his forehead resting against hers. "So," Maya agreed. "I know we said we'd take things slow." "We are taking things slow," Maya interrupted. "This is what slow looks like." Luke smiled. "I like slow." They stayed up late that night, talking by the dying fire about their hopes for the future, about places they wanted to travel and dreams they hadn't shared with anyone else. Maya told Luke about her plan to eventually open her own practice, specializing in grief counseling. Luke shared his idea of someday starting a small charter service, nothing fancy, just helping people get where they needed to go. "We should probably talk about being exclusive," Maya said as the fire burned down to embers. "I was hoping you'd bring that up," Luke said, "because I'm not interested in dating anyone else." "Good, because I'm not either." They decided to head to bed before the fire died completely, and Luke walked Maya to her room like the gentleman he'd proven himself to be all weekend. "Thank you for this," Maya said, hand on her doorknob. "Thank you for trusting me with it." Maya slept deeply that night, lulled by the sound of waves and the knowledge that she was exactly where she wanted to be. The next morning brought a ferry schedule and the reality of returning to their ordinary lives. As they packed their small bags and tidied up the lodge, Maya felt reluctant to leave this peaceful bubble they'd created. "We should probably talk about what happens now," she said as Luke turned off the water heater. "What do you want to happen now?" Maya considered. "I want to keep seeing you. I want to meet your friends and introduce you properly to mine. I want normal dates and phone calls and all the regular stuff." "That sounds perfect. But no moving in together for at least 6 months. No shared bank accounts, ever. And if you want to take me somewhere that requires a helicopter, you ask first." Luke grinned. "Deal. But just so you know, most of my favorite places are accessible by car." As they waited for the ferry on the small island dock, Maya felt her phone buzz back to life as it connected to cellular service. Several missed messages appeared, but one made her blood run cold. 3 texts from Jordan, sent the night before. "Saw your photo in that blog post. Interesting choice. He's buying you, you know. Guys like that don't date girls like you for any other reason. Call me when you're ready to be realistic about this." Maya's hands shook as she stared at the messages. Luke noticed immediately. "Everything okay?" Maya showed him the texts, watching his expression darken as he read them. "Who is this?" he asked quietly. "Jordan, my ex." Luke handed her phone back carefully. "What do you want to do?" The question caught Maya off guard. Jordan had always told her what to do about problems. Luke was asking what she wanted. "I want to block his number," she said. "But first I want to respond." "Okay," Maya typed quickly. "Stop contacting me. We're done, and I've moved on. Don't text me again." Then she blocked Jordan's number and deleted the message thread. "There," she said, tucking her phone away. "Done." Luke nodded approvingly. "Good for you." As their ferry approached the dock, Maya realized something important. For the first time in months, she'd dealt with Jordan's attempts at manipulation without doubting herself, without questioning her judgment, without feeling like she needed someone else to tell her what to think. Maybe that was what healing looked like, not the absence of challenges, but the confidence to handle them yourself. "Luke," she said as they boarded the ferry. "Yeah? I'm really glad I met you." Luke smiled and took her hand as they found seats by the windows. "I'm really glad you got in the helicopter." The ferry pulled away from the dock, carrying them back towards Seattle and whatever came next. Maya watched the island shrink behind them and realized she wasn't afraid of the future anymore. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she had the tools to handle them. And if she was very lucky, she wouldn't have to handle them alone. But as beautiful as the weekend had been, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that Jordan's texts were just the beginning. She had a feeling that choosing happiness was going to require more courage than she'd realized. The ferry ride back to Seattle felt different than the trip out. Maya and Luke stood at the rail again, but this time there was an easiness between them that hadn't existed before. They'd crossed some invisible line over the weekend, moving from careful strangers to something that felt like the beginning of real partnership. But as the Seattle skyline grew larger ahead of them, Maya felt her phone buzzing insistently in her pocket. When she finally checked it, her stomach dropped. 7 missed calls from an unknown number. When she listened to the first voicemail, Jordan's voice filled her ear, smooth and reasonable as ever. "Maya, I know you blocked my number, but I'm worried about you. I saw that blog post, and I've been doing some research on this Harrington family. There are things you need to know. Call me back." Maya deleted the message without listening to the others and showed Luke the call log. "He's persistent," Luke said quietly. "He always was." Maya turned her phone to silent and tucked it away. "Let's not let him ruin what's left of our weekend." But privately, Maya felt the familiar twist of anxiety in her stomach. She knew Jordan well enough to recognize this pattern. He wasn't going to just disappear because she'd asked him to. When Jordan wanted something or someone, he was relentless. Back in her apartment that evening, Maya unpacked her small bag and tried to focus on the good parts of the weekend. The easy conversations with Luke, the way he'd asked before kissing her, the comfortable silence as they'd worked on Erin's puzzle together. But her phone kept buzzing with calls from different numbers, and Maya finally turned it off entirely. Tasha arrived an hour later with takeout Chinese food and a determined expression. "Okay," she said, settling onto Maya's couch with containers of lo mein and orange chicken. "Tell me everything, and I mean everything." Maya found herself smiling as she described the weekend, the rustic lodge, the broken stove, the long conversations by the fire. Tasha listened with growing approval. "He sounds like a keeper," she said when Maya finished. "What's that look on your face?" "Jordan's been calling all evening. Different numbers, so I can't block them all." Tasha's expression hardened. "What does he want?" "I don't know. I haven't been answering." "Good. Keep not answering." Tasha stabbed at her orange chicken with more force than necessary. "That man needs to learn that no means no." Maya's phone, even though it was turned off, felt like a weight in her purse. What if he doesn't stop? Then we deal with it. But Maya, you can't let him scare you away from Luke, not when you're finally happy. That night, Maya lay awake thinking about happiness and how fragile it felt. She'd spent months building walls around her life, keeping herself safe from men like Jordan. But walls that kept out pain also kept out joy. Luke was asking her to be brave enough to try again, and Maya wanted to be that brave. She just hoped Jordan would let her. The next morning brought a new challenge Maya hadn't expected. When she arrived at her clinic, there was an email waiting from the building's property management company. Asterisk, "Dear Miss Ellis, we wanted to inform you of some changes to the ownership structure of your building. Effective immediately, your lease will be managed by Seattle Community Properties, a local company with a focus on supporting small businesses and community healthcare providers. This change will have no impact on your lease terms or rental amount. If you have any questions, please contact our new property manager, Janet Chen, at the number below. Best regards, Harrington Holdings Management Times. Maya read the email twice, then reached for her phone to call Luke. "Did you see the email about the building?" she asked when he answered. "I saw it. How do you feel about it?" Maya considered, confused. "What does this mean exactly?" "It means I sold my family's stake in that building to a company that specializes in supporting small healthcare businesses. Your lease is now with people who actually understand and value what you do." "Luke," Maya sank into her office chair. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." "Maya, I needed you to know that there's absolutely no connection between your professional life and our personal relationship. This was the cleanest way to make that happen." Maya felt something tight in her chest begin to loosen. "Thank you. You don't need to thank me. This is what caring about someone looks like." After they hung up, Maya sat quietly in her office for a long moment. Luke had just made a significant financial decision, probably costing his family money, to remove even the possibility of a conflict between their relationship and her livelihood. Jordan had never made that kind of sacrifice. He'd never even considered it. The morning brought 3 patients, each requiring different kinds of care and attention. Maya threw herself into the work, grateful for the distraction, but during her lunch break, her phone rang with yet another unknown number. This time, she answered. "Maya, thank God." Jordan's voice was filled with concern that sounded genuine if you didn't know him well. "I've been trying to reach you for days. I told you to stop calling me." "I know, but this is important." "Maya, I've been looking into this Harrington family, and there are things you need to know. I'm hanging up now." "Wait." Jordan's voice sharpened slightly. "Did you know that Luke Harrington's family owns half the commercial real estate in Capitol Hill, including the building where your clinic is located?" "Not anymore, they don't." There was a pause. "What do you mean?" "I mean, it's none of your business, Jordan." "Stop calling me." "Maya, listen to me. Men like that don't give up control. If he's made you think he's stepping back from anything, he's lying. Rich men don't actually give up power, they just get better at hiding it." Maya felt her resolve waver slightly. Jordan was good at this, at finding the exact thing that would make her doubt herself. "Even if that were true," she said carefully, "it's not your concern. Of course it's my concern. I care about you, Maya. I always have. And I can see you making the same mistakes." "The same mistakes." "Jordan, the biggest mistake I ever made was trusting you." "Maya." She hung up and immediately blocked that number too. But Jordan's words echoed in her mind. Rich men don't actually give up power, they just get better at hiding it. That evening, Maya met Luke for dinner at a small restaurant in her neighborhood, the kind of place that served good food without any pretension. Luke had arrived first and was reading a paperback thriller while he waited. "Good day?" he asked, as she settled into the chair across from him. Jordan called again. Luke's expression tightened slightly. "What did he say?" Maya hesitated. She didn't want to give Jordan's words power by repeating them, but she also needed to be honest with Luke. "He thinks you're manipulating me. He says rich men don't actually give up control, they just hide it better." Luke was quiet for a long moment. "What do you think?" "I think Jordan's trying to make me doubt my own judgment, but I also think," Maya took a breath, "I think I need to see proof that you really did sell the building stake." "Of course." Luke pulled out his phone and scrolled through his emails. "Here's the purchase agreement, and here's the confirmation from our lawyer that the sale went through this morning." Maya read through the documents. Everything looked legitimate, but she wasn't a lawyer. "Luke, would you mind if I had a friend of mine look at these? Someone who understands legal documents?" "Not at all. In fact, I'll do you one better." Luke took his phone back and typed quickly. "I'm forwarding these to you right now, along with the contact information for Janet Chen at Seattle, Community Properties, and the lawyer who handled the transaction. Call any of them, ask any questions you want." Maya felt the tight knot in her stomach begin to ease. "Thank you." "Maya, I need you to understand something. I will never ask you to just trust me about something you can verify for yourself. If you want proof, you should have proof." This was so different from Jordan's approach that Maya felt slightly dizzy. Jordan had always gotten offended when she'd questioned him, had made her doubt herself for wanting evidence. "What if I want to call them all?" she asked. "What if I want to see every document and talk to every person involved?" Luke smiled. "Then I'll give you their numbers and let you take all the time you need." Maya stared at him. "Just like that? Just like that? And you won't get angry or tell me I'm being paranoid or difficult?" "Maya, you're protecting yourself." "That's not paranoid, that's smart." Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. When had someone last supported her instinct to be careful instead of telling her she was overreacting? "Jordan made me feel crazy for wanting to verify things," she said quietly. "Jordan was the problem, not you." They ordered dinner and talked about lighter topics while they ate. Luke told her about a charter flight he'd taken to Eastern Washington, where he'd flown a family to visit their grandfather's farm one last time before it was sold. Maya shared a story about a patient who'd asked her to help him write love letters to his wife of 60 years. "How do people stay married that long?" Luke asked. "He told me the secret is remembering that you're on the same team," Maya said, "even when you disagree about everything else. I like that." After dinner, they walked slowly through Maya's neighborhood. The evening was clear and cool, and the streets were busy with people heading home from work or out for the night. "Can I ask you something?" Maya said as they paused at a crosswalk. "Always." "Why me?" Luke looked puzzled. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you could probably date anyone. Someone from your same background, someone who wouldn't question every document or freak out about power imbalances. Why are you interested in someone who comes with so much? Complexity?" Luke was quiet until the light changed and they crossed the street. "Because," he said finally, "most of the women I've dated have been interested in what I have, not who I am. You're the first person who's been more concerned about maintaining your independence than about gaining access to mine." Maya considered this. "And that's attractive to you?" "Maya, I don't want someone who needs me for my money or my family connections. I want someone who chooses to be with me because she actually likes spending time with me." Luke stopped walking and turned to face her. "You make me feel like I'm enough just as I am." Maya understood. She'd spent so many months with Jordan, feeling like she needed to be fixed, improved, managed. Luke made her feel like she was already exactly who she should be. "I do like spending time with you," she said, "even when I come with complicated family dynamics and trust issues of my own." Maya smiled. Even then, they were standing outside Maya's building now. Luke walked her to the front door but didn't assume he was invited up. "What are you doing tomorrow night?" he asked. "Nothing special. Why?" "I thought maybe you'd like to meet some of my friends. Nothing formal, just drinks after work." "But only if you want to." Maya felt a flutter of nervousness, but it was the good kind, the kind that came with new experiences rather than potential danger. "I'd like that," she said. "Good, I'll text you the details." Luke leaned in to kiss her goodnight, and Maya felt that same sense of rightness she'd experienced at the lodge. This was what a healthy relationship felt like, easy and honest and safe. As she climbed the stairs to her apartment, Maya realized that Jordan's phone calls had stopped bothering her quite as much. She was starting to trust her own judgment again, and her judgment told her that Luke was exactly who he appeared to be, a good man who was interested in building something real with her. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Luke. "Thank you for tonight. And Maya, call those lawyers. Ask all the questions you want. I'll be here when you're ready." Maya smiled and typed back, "I will. And Luke, thank you for not making me feel crazy for wanting proof. You're not crazy. You're careful. There's a difference." As Maya got ready for bed, she realized something had shifted. For the first time since Jordan, she was starting to believe that she could trust someone again. Not blindly, but carefully and intentionally, with proof and patience and respect. Tomorrow she'd call the lawyers and verify every document Luke had shown her. But tonight, she was going to sleep peacefully, knowing that a good man had just encouraged her to protect herself instead of asking her to simply trust him. That felt like the beginning of something real. But Maya had no idea that across town, Jordan was planning his next move. And this time, he wasn't going to rely on phone calls and manipulation. This time, he was going to force a confrontation that would test everything Maya thought she knew about Luke and about herself. The next evening, Maya stood outside a small bar in Belltown, checking her reflection in the dark window. She'd chosen her outfit carefully, nice enough to make a good impression on Luke's friends, but not so dressy that she'd feel out of place. A simple black sweater and jeans, her grandmother's silver earrings. Luke appeared beside her on the sidewalk, slightly out of breath. "Sorry, I'm late." Client meeting ran long. He looked her over and smiled. "You look beautiful. Thank you. I'm nervous." "Don't be. They're going to love you." The bar was the kind of place that served craft beer and played music just loud enough to create atmosphere without drowning out conversation. Luke led her to a corner table where 3 people were already seated, 2 men and a woman, all around Luke's age. "Everyone, this is Maya," Luke said. "Maya, meet my friends. This is Derek, my former roommate and current pain in the neck." Derek, a tall black man with an easy smile, stood to shake Maya's hand. "Don't listen to him. I'm delightful." "This is Rachel," Luke continued, indicating a petite woman with curly red hair. "She's a teacher, so she has more patience than the rest of us combined." "Nice to meet you," Rachel said warmly. "And this is Tom, who owns a bookstore and thinks that makes him smarter than everyone else." Tom, a bearded man in flannel, grinned. "It absolutely does make me smarter than everyone else." Maya relaxed as they all laughed. These were normal people with normal jobs, the kind of friends who gave each other a hard time and clearly cared about each other. "So, Maya," Derek said as they settled back into their seats, "Luke tells us you're a massage therapist." "I work at a hospice clinic," Maya confirmed. Rachel's expression grew more serious. "That must be incredibly meaningful work. And difficult." "It is both," Maya said, "but I love it. There's something special about being able to bring comfort to people during the hardest time in their lives." "Luke said you're amazing at it," Tom added. "He's been talking about you non-stop for 2 weeks." Luke's face reddened slightly. "Thanks for that, Tom." "What? It's true. We were starting to think you'd never find someone who could put up with your helicopter obsession." Maya laughed. The helicopter thing was definitely a surprise. "Please tell me you have embarrassing Luke stories," Derek said. "We need ammunition, Derek," Rachel warned, but she was smiling. "Actually," Maya said, "I'm more interested in hearing your embarrassing Luke stories." The next hour passed quickly as Luke's friends shared tales of college mishaps and weekend adventures. Maya learned that Luke had once gotten so absorbed in a flying lesson that he'd forgotten about a dinner date entirely, that he was terrible at karaoke but insisted on singing anyway, that he'd driven 4 hours to help Derek move, even though Derek had given him only 2 days' notice. "He's annoyingly reliable," Derek said. "It's his worst quality." "I can think of worse qualities in a man," Maya said. "See?" Luke said to his friends. "I told you she was smart." As the evening wound down, Rachel walked with Maya to the restroom. "I hope you don't mind me saying this," Rachel said as they washed their hands, "but Luke seems really happy. Happier than I've seen him in a long time." "He makes me happy too," Maya said. "Good. He deserves that." Rachel paused. "We were worried about him for a while after Rebecca. She really did a number on him. He told me a little about that." "Did he tell you how he found out she was using him?" Maya shook her head. She'd been planning their wedding for months, venue, dress, everything without ever actually discussing marriage with him. When he finally realized what was happening and broke up with her, she tried to sue him for the money she'd already spent. Rachel's expression darkened. "Luke's lawyer got it thrown out, but it was ugly." Maya felt a pang of sympathy. "That's awful. It made him really cautious about dating. So the fact that he's introducing you to us, that he's talking about you the way he does, it means something." As they returned to the table, Maya felt the weight of that information. Luke had taken his own kind of risk by trusting her, just as she'd taken a risk by trusting him. "Ready to head out?" Luke asked as they rejoined the group. They said their goodbyes, with promises to get together again soon. Derek hugged Maya and whispered, "Take care of him, okay?" "Take care of yourself," she whispered back. Outside the bar, Luke and Maya walked slowly toward her bus stop. "They're wonderful," Maya said. "Thank you for introducing me to them. Thank you for being so easy to introduce. I was worried you might think they were too." Luke searched for the words. "Normal?" Maya suggested. Luke laughed. "Yeah, normal. Luke, I like normal. Normal is good." They reached Maya's bus stop and settled onto the bench to wait. The evening was clear and cool, and the city lights reflected off the windows of passing cars. Can I ask you something? Maya said. Always. Rachel told me about Rebecca trying to sue you. That must have been horrible. Luke was quiet for a moment. It was. Not because of the money that was never really in question, but because I realized how completely I'd misjudged someone I thought I knew well. Is that why you're being so patient with all my questions and verification requests? Partly. But mostly it's because I understand what it's like to have your trust broken. Luke turned to face her. Maya, I never want you to feel like you have to just take my word for something. If you want proof, you should have proof. Maya's bus appeared in the distance, its headlights cutting through the darkness. I called Janet Chen today, she said, and the lawyer who handled the building sale. And everything you told me was true. The sale went through exactly as you described. Your family no longer has any financial interest in my building. Luke nodded. Good. How do you feel about that? Relieved. And grateful. Maya stood as the bus pulled up to the stop, and ready to stop looking over my shoulder for hidden motivations. Luke stood too and kissed her softly. I'm glad. As Maya climbed onto the bus, she felt lighter than she had in weeks. Luke's friends had accepted her easily. The building situation was truly resolved, and for the first time since Jordan, she was beginning to believe that she could trust her own judgment about people. But as the bus pulled away from the curb, Maya didn't see the figure standing in the shadows across the street, watching her leave. Jordan had been following her for 3 days, learning her routines, figuring out the best time and place for the confrontation he was planning. And tomorrow, when Maya left work at her usual time, he'd be ready. The next day passed normally at the clinic. Maya saw 4 patients, each requiring different approaches to care. Mrs. Rodriguez, whose arthritis had been flaring. Mr. Kim, who was in the final stages of pancreatic cancer, but still insisted on hearing jokes during his sessions. Sarah, a young woman whose mother was dying and who needed someone to remind her to breathe. Maya loved this work, loved the way. Touch could communicate comfort when words failed. She was good at reading what people needed: gentle pressure for anxiety, firm strokes for tension, simply presence for grief. At 5:30, she locked up the clinic and headed for the bus stop, mind already turning toward the evening ahead. Luke was cooking dinner at his apartment, their first time at his place, and Maya was looking forward to seeing how he lived when he thought no one was watching. She was halfway to the bus stop when Jordan stepped out from between 2 parked cars. Hello, Maya. Maya's heart jumped, but she kept walking. Leave me alone, Jordan. We need to talk. No, we don't. Maya pulled out her phone, but Jordan raised his hands in a calming gesture. I'm not going to hurt you. I just want 5 minutes of your time. I gave you 5 minutes last year. You used it to try to control my life. Jordan fell into step beside her, and Maya felt the familiar anxiety creep up her spine. He was dressed well, as always expensive suit, perfect hair, the kind of polished appearance that had initially impressed her. Maya, I've been doing research on Luke Harrington and his family. There are things you need to know, such as the fact that the building sale you're so happy about, it never actually went through. Maya stopped walking. What? Jordan pulled out his phone and showed her a screenshot of what looked like a property database. See, Harrington Holdings is still listed as the owner of your building. The sale Luke told you about was just paperwork shuffling, moving the asset to a subsidiary company that his family still controls. Maya stared at the screen, feeling her confidence begin to crumble. That's not. He showed me documents. Documents can be faked, Maya. Rich people are very good at making things look legitimate when they're not. You're lying. Am I? Call the city records office. Check for yourself. Jordan's voice was gentle, concerned. Maya, this is exactly what I was afraid of. He's manipulating you, making you think he's giving up control when he's actually tightening it. Maya's hands were shaking now. Even if that were true, it's none of your business. Of course it's my business. I care about you, Maya. I always have. And I can see you making the same mistakes that nearly ruined your life before. My life wasn't ruined, Jordan. It was just controlled by you. Maya, think about this logically. Why would a man from one of Seattle's wealthiest families be interested in a massage therapist from Capitol Hill? What does he get out of this relationship? The question hit Maya like a physical blow. She'd asked herself the same thing just days ago, and Luke's answer had satisfied her. But standing here with Jordan, seeing what looked like proof that Luke had lied to her, those old doubts came rushing back. "He cares about me," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Or he's playing a longer game than you realize." Jordan stepped closer. "Maya, men like that don't date women like us, unless they want something. And the fact that he's lying about the building situation proves it." Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. She wanted to argue, wanted to defend Luke, but the evidence on Jordan's phone was right there in black and white. "What do you want from me?" she asked quietly. "I want you to be safe. I want you to stop letting people take advantage of your good heart." Jordan's voice was soft, persuasive. "Maya, come have dinner with me tonight. Let me show you what I've found. And then if you still want to trust Luke Harrington, I'll respect that decision." Maya stared at Jordan's phone screen, her world tilting off its axis. If Luke had lied about the building sale, what else had he lied about? The recusal paperwork? His feelings for her? Everything? "One dinner," Jordan said. "What harm could that do?" Maya thought about Luke waiting for her at his apartment, probably already starting dinner. She thought about his friend's easy acceptance, about the way he'd encouraged her to verify everything he'd told her. But she also thought about the screenshot on Jordan's phone and the sick feeling in her stomach that maybe she'd been fooled again. "One dinner," she heard herself say. "But Jordan, if you're lying to me about this, if you're manipulating evidence to break us up, I'll never speak to you again." "I'm not lying, Maya." "I wish I were." As Jordan led her toward his car, Maya sent a quick text to Luke. Something came up. "Rain, check on dinner? I'll call you later." His response came immediately. "Of course." "Everything okay?" Maya stared at the message, searching for signs of deception in even those simple words. "Fine. Just tired. Get some rest. Talk tomorrow?" "Yes." Maya turned off her phone and followed Jordan to his car, telling herself she was just gathering information, just protecting herself, just being smart. But deep down, she knew she was about to make a mistake that would test everything she thought she knew about trust, love, and her own judgment. And Luke, sitting in his apartment with ingredients for dinner spread across his kitchen counter, had no idea that the woman he was falling in love with was driving away with the man who was determined to destroy them both,